So having done various other video tests on this IDOL 4 Pro, this is going to be a fairly heavy duty exercising the camera session. So I'm holding this handheld, obviously. This is 1080p footage, mainly because that's what I use in other fields. I don't want to go all 4K. I don't think the sensor is really up to it, and you do get the digital stabilization. This is looking quite shaky on the viewfinder, but I'm pretty confident this will be digitally stabilized here in weak summer sun, very weak sun. It should be pretty stable for you, and we're going to zoom all the way as far as the UI will let me. Hopefully that's pretty stable for you, which is impressive really. No OIS here in the camera. Of course, the digital stabilization can't really cope with any serious movement, and as I walk up to the now closed Aviation Museum, you should see some jerking around. This is beyond what digital stabilization can cope with, whatever Google may say on their Pixel. We're going to look at some more zooming, also some focusing, close focusing as well. Now we've got the gate and the sign, which is kind of convenient, so we're going to close focus on the sign. And there's the opening hour, should you wish to visit it, at about 8 centimetres, and then immediately move out into the looking at the aircraft, and then back to the sign. The chipset, Snapdragon 820, of course, is pretty darn speedy, and a lot of the image signal processing is done using that chipset rather than anything clever excuse me, that Alcatel have put in place. This is the Hanley Herald again, which we looked inside in another part of this video. And again, zooming in. One of the biggest complaints I had is that the audio levels are still quite low. This needs attention from the Microsoft Windows 10 camera team, and I've applied to the appropriate person and it's being looked at. So remains to be seen if the timescale for a fix is days, weeks, months, or never. Anyway, this is unzoomed still. Shooting at 1080p with that flexibility to do zooming into the sensor is pretty powerful, really. I mean, you can get some impressive shots, especially with the Windows 10 camera digital stabilization. Well, it impresses me. Let's check light and dark. I'm going to pan round into the sun. Let's see if the notoriously glitchy exposure algorithms make a mess of this or not. That didn't look too bad on the viewfinder. I'll pan back just to be sure. Well, that was smoother than I remember it in indistinct light. So there we are. This is the IDOL 4 Pro here at the Museum of Berkshire Aviation, putting it through its paces. This is the Hanley Herald, famously flown by the Duke of Edinburgh when he was in his flying days, apparently. I'm just going to give you a video tour. This digital stabilization turned on. Whether or not this audio track makes it is another matter. So ahead of us is my nephew, by the way. So stabilization on digitally and using the zooming into the sensor, and the sun's out. So let's just give a test of change of light to dark, and let's see if we can see the cockpit as we go up the stairs. Mind my head. And the cockpit, oh, it's behind some perspex. There we go. quite a good exhibit to go around and see. Zoom back out again. And the galley. Fairly minimal, but pretty good. Then through to the main body. I think we head outside and check out the hardware, Charlie. After you.
Why is it so tight?
That's because people were only 4 feet short in the olden days. It's amazing that they delivered all this in bits and in terrible condition, and then in rebuilding and repainting over the years and keeping it tip-top condition. Walk right under the scaffolding and then round to the back of the aircraft. You can imagine this flying. This is pretty good condition. Brighter conditions now that the sun has gone in. I'm going to walk right round under the tail. Good test of contrast, handling of light, dark and focus, of course. There we are, we have a nephew larking around. That's the maximum zoom. Let's just check focus adjustments by going in close. And then we're going to switch up to be far away. It's well, it looks pretty fast on the viewfinder, so that's quite impressive. It has got a Snapdragon 820 behind it, of course. And it's amazing how the undercarriage fits in the bottom half of the engine cowling. That's really quite efficient. Wow. So all of this wheelage goes up there and retracts. That's some impressive engineering. Unlike the cone, Charlie, thank you, which is less impressive engineering, but so all of that retracts. And then the front half of this whole pod, including the cooling ducts, is the engine. But all really rather impressive. And great to see it at such close quarters. This is Berkshire Aviation Museum, in case you hadn't sussed that. I've used this particular aircraft numerous times in test photos.
They're so cute. They're definitely related.
Yeah. To test video at night time, I've tapped set focus. I'll do it again just to show you the. Oh, you can set exposure as well, but so focus and exposure set manually because the auto hunting won't work, and the stabilization here, the digital stabilization, doesn't work very well when there's not much light, as you can imagine. So although this is stable enough, if I start moving around, just trying to keep pointing at the centre of the roundabout, you can probably start seeing the wobbles and the breakup in the video image, and then some cars coming. And, looks like the exposure is automatic. Well, if I point it towards car headlamps, then there we go. You can see again if I point at the sign. Mixed results so far.